Ludwig von Wittgenstein, the great linguist, once said, "The limits of my language are the limits of my universe." Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a cage. We live in a world where we can only express our thoughts and intentions using predetermined words. You see, George Orwell explored this concept in his novel, 1984, where a totalitarian government forces its society to adopt a language called Newspeak, a radically revised version of the English language, from which many meanings available to us today have been removed. The purpose of Newspeak was to provide a means of expression accepted by the government and making all other modes of thought impossible. The word free still existed in Newspeak, but only in the sense of this field is free from weeds, or this dog is free from lice. It could not be used in the sense of intellectually free or politically free, because intellectual freedom and political freedom no longer exist even as concepts, and were therefore of necessity nameless. Of course, this is only fiction, but the concept of language limiting our thought is a subject I find to be of interest. You see, Shakespeare was a man who refused to be trapped by this cage. He created words that to us today might seem impossible to live without. Words like eyeball, luggage, successful, amazement. When he got stuck trying to think of a word, the man just went off and made his own. In this speech, I will attempt to convince you that words are not enough. Words are not enough to embrace the full human experience. For every word there's a meaning, but for every meaning sometimes there is no word. We will look at some examples of this and how it concerns us. Language can and is limiting in the way that we think. Let's take a look at the following example. A Brazilian hunter-gatherer tribe whose language, Piraha, contains only words for the numbers 1 and 2, nothing else. Anything over 2 is classified under many. There are no words for 3, 4, 5, and so on. Just 1, 2, and many. These people were put together for an experiment, and they were shown 4 blocks of wood. They were then told to remember them. They were then shown, minutes afterwards, 5 blocks of wood. Ladies and gentlemen, the results were astonishing. They could not tell the difference between 4 and 5 blocks of wood. Their reality was only as broad as their language. How can we tell if our reality is not limited in some way or another? How can we be so sure of it? You see, we label things. We label people and we associate certain words to certain things and certain people. Take, for example, a rainbow. Speakers of different languages may see different numbers of colors of the rainbow. Since rainbows are actually a continuum of color, there are no actual stripes or bands, yet people only see as many bands as their language allows them to. If you ask me, what colors do you see in the rainbow? I'd probably tell you red, green, and blue. But if you were to ask a painter, he'd give you a completely different answer. Indigo, cyan, turquoise. Zen, a school of Buddhism, sticks to the idea that attaching words to the concept of Zen would mean defeating its own purpose. Zen is an example of a thought or experience that is linguistically inexplicable. But how many of our experiences are linguistically inexplicable to us right now? How many feelings have we not attributed words to? How come we sometimes have thoughts and emotions for which we do not have the words? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that our thoughts are not determined by our language, but they are restricted by our language. The variety of words we use do not affect what we think, but they affect how broad we think. Language should be a means of facilitating expression, but not defining it. Most importantly, language is not static. Language is not written in stone. Language is changing every day. Language is a cage, yes, but a cage that is changing shape and growing more and more as time passes. As we speak, in some faraway lands, some kids made up a new word for something. The words OMG and LOL have been added to the dictionary. And to those kids I say, rock on. You're the Shakespeares of my generation. Thank you very much.